Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Healthy Perspective podcast. Today is going to be an amazing one because we have Mr. Jonathan Pritchard with us. He is the founder of the international consulting company Zavant Enterprises and author of several books focused on the power of applied psychology for life and business. And I'm really excited about this one personally because being a kind of neurologically based chiropractor, I love working with people that have interesting perspectives and experience working with the brain and bringing out the optimal potential of our mind power. I think so many people just kind of sit in that state of fight or flight and never are able to break free of the mental change that limits human potential. And so I think today can be really powerful if you're struggling with limiting beliefs and boundaries that you haven't been able to break free from. And our goal today is to not only get to know each other, but also really just set expectations that you can be more than what you are right now. Not that you are less than, but you can bring the world, a much more powerful version of yourself. And so with that, Jonathan, thank you so much for joining us.
Dude, I'm stoked to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. So why don't you kind of just bring us back to the beginning of this journey that you've been on, studying the mind, getting to know, the more intricacies and ways to hack it and whatnot. What kind of first got you interested in that?
Magic tricks. That's really it. When I was a kid, my dad got me a magic set for Christmas or my birthday. And he has told me many years later, he said, I never expected it to really take off. I figured I'd see it in the trash a day later, and it's a year later, and I'm still bugging him with tricks from the kit. He goes, well, I guess got our money's worth out of this.
Yeah.
And I was just always fascinated by magic tricks because if you've never read a magic book, they're written like a recipe. And you go, assemble these ingredients, combine them in this way, and the product is amazement. And I would do what they said to do in the order that they said to do it. I would say what I need to say, and then my parents would go, I saw how it works. I'm like, oh, how you do it is as important as what you're doing as well. And then when all of that comes together, you have these impossible experiences. So magic is intentionally designing the impossible, which requires complete understanding of what is real and what is possible so that you can warp it to do what it's not designed to do, really. And magic only happens in the mind of the audience. That's it. I can't fool a computer. I can't fool a camera. Only a human mind allows for the experience of that magical moment. So it's all just applied psychology, showmanship, and having the moxie to pull off these crazy stunts that are disproportionately impressive to how difficult it might be or not. So I traveled the world as a performer. I've entertained in Vegas, on the Strip there at the Link Casino, a Caesars property, and I entertained the troops stationed overseas for 2 weeks. And learning these magic tricks as a poor kid in the mountains of North Carolina literally took me around the world for 20 years. And the older I got and working with more and more corporate clients, they would talk to me about, you're so good at talking on stage. If our team could communicate like that, that would be fantastic. So I started doing sales training and then negotiation skills training, presentation skills training. And then, boy, you know what? Our salespeople aren't happy because our marketing is setting the wrong expectations. And people are showing up to the sales call expecting our salespeople to have a full-on audit completed. So can you help us re-engineer the way that we're communicating with the marketplace, our leads, and then our clients? Like, you got it. And then that's when the corporate side of what I do really took shape. So as as part of my day-to-day operations, I might be at a trade show, being in a booth for a client, doing a mind reading show right there on the trade show floor, so that we just attract hordes of people, and then I entertain them and educate them at the same time with, here's what makes my client so special. But it looks like I'm an employee of that business. So then people go, man, you guys are so lucky to have Jonathan on your team. Where did you find him? They're like, well, this is literally, he has a whole business around this, right? So I do that, or I could be entertaining a corporate client at their annual gala or a sales event. I could be a keynote speaker. So basically, my job is helping a company connect its message with their audience, whether that's online, in person, whatever kind of reason people have to get together. I can facilitate the goal of my client so that the audience walks away remembering or feeling or just experiencing, these are the top 3 things that we want them to walk away with. I'm like, cool, yeah. I'll design an experience that does that. So that's why I wear many, many hats that are all under experiential design, leveraging the power of applied psychology. Because once you know how people think, you can get them to think whatever you want them to, which is a terrifying superpower. But if you don't learn to control it, somebody else will, and they won't have your best interests at heart like you do. So that's so the good. Long and short of it.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, I'm a business owner, clinician. I think a lot of people aren't able to operate with really both sides of their mind, where you have that more strategic kind of black and white, side of it that's more planning and statistics and whatnot. And then you have that kind of creative, outside of the box, emotional, side of it. And not that the brain, only functions in one side or the other. Oftentimes it weaves. But oftentimes when we think of marketing as a business owner, this is what I want. I want 4 new leads, or I want 4 new sales, or whatever. And so we frame things in an educational way that completely leaves out exposure to the creative side, and the client leaves educated but not moved. You know what I mean? They leave taught but not necessarily learned and experienced. And so I love how you frame what you do, where it's not just this, like, people walk away with this 3-step process to, blah, 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 blah. But in those 3 steps is a story that those 3 steps mean something to them because of the experience in which you framed it. I'm sure, when people started asking you, hey, can you do this as a result of, entertainment, your mind was like, oh yeah, like I do, like this is how I do that. Here's how it translates into. So how did you really start to build the bridge between purely, entertaining people, like no agenda other than to make you laugh, wowed, amazed, whatever, into this shaped experience where you're not only walking away with those emotions, but those emotions are attached to either things that I want you to remember or learn?
I had really, really good mentors. And a lot of it was helping me understand the world of corporations and how it's very numbers driven. Profit, minimizing liabilities. That's it. That's all we care about. And I grew up developing these skills that were useful to me to make myself have a great life. And it's that not everybody grew up with my same teachers and mentors and experiences. So the older I got, the more I realized that the natural way that I think is very unnatural to 99.9% of planet Earth. So I was going, what's easy for me is actually ultra valuable to businesses and anybody who is trapped in the straitjacket of their own assumptions. Right? And the real first glimmer and peek into this is useful to people beyond just myself. A big part of my touring was at colleges. For about 8-10 years, that was the main thing that I did, was entertaining college kids. So I would do these mind reading shows where the students are doing amazing math or speaking different languages that they don't speak, or predicting the future, all these impossible things. Well, I'm on stage doing them, and I'm helping them do it, making them the star of the show. So then afterwards, there's a long autograph line, and I want to meet every single person that wants to stick around and meet me, because it's an honor to be able to do what I do for a living. I don't ever want to be that diva of, I don't have time to meet my fans. Don't bother me with autographs.
Right.
So instead, I stick around until the last person leaves.
Awesome.
And all the time, more than once after every show, I would hear students go, I had no idea that you could do stuff like this. And after hearing that enough, I realized that there's two ways they mean it. The first one is on the surface. I have no idea how you did all those mind reading things, how you helped that person read different languages. Like that's impossible. But then the second was, wait a minute. So you're telling me you have a degree in painting, but you travel the world as a mind reader, as a corporate consultant for BP, State Farm, Discovery.
Wow.
What are you? Right?
Yeah.
Because the normal story is get good grades in high school to get into a good college, to graduate with a degree, to get a good job, to retire with a gold watch and die. That's the trajectory that a lot of students in college are on. And then here I come as just this blazing comet through their universe. And they're like, I've never seen anything like that. So then, after the experience, they're going, wait a minute. What else could I do if I put my mind to it? Because this poor kid from the mountains of North Carolina figured out how to travel the world, making people laugh for a living. So maybe my wacky idea isn't as wacky as I thought it was. So it's opening up that world of possibility, and then hearing back from those students. 2-3 years later, I'd start getting emails. Hey, I don't know if you remember me or not, but you talked to me after a show and you shared your thoughts, and here's everything I did because of our talk. And it was like, oh, wow. Lord, this is going to be bad. They're like, and life's fantastic. I'm like, whoo, dodge that bullet. And that was when I started getting that positive reinforcement of, hey, that was really helpful, was the first glimpse into, oh, okay, I kind of have a moral obligation to share my way of seeing the universe to help other people broaden their horizons, since they didn't grow up with a weird upbringing like I did.
Right. And, so many, people, I mean, we're probably similar age-ish, but so many people our generation and up, say things like, oh, millennials don't know how to work, or, even Gen Z or whatever is below, like they don't know how to, this and that and the other thing. And I'm like, sure, there's different work ethics that they aren't expressing that we only knew, that we only expressed, but something that they're doing that we and our parents weren't was sit in a job that they hated for 40 years, getting compensated next to nothing, but they had security of not losing or they had the white picket fence house, or, whatever it is. And that's something I really appreciate about this kind of newer generation coming up, where it's like, we don't have to choose what your parents did simply because there's no other option. You don't have to choose to sit in a job for 40 years and hopefully retire on Social Security and a 401k, or, whatever it is. Like, you can do what you're passionate about and be wildly profitable, and especially making the difference in the world, instead of just making the people above you in management or, C-suite, people richer, while you continue to live, in a tract home on top of people with no, no really hope of having a vacation and whatnot. What are you kind of seeing in this next generation, coming up as what they don't necessarily have that, or they don't want that. They saw, like me, I saw my dad get up at 2:30 in the morning to go over the super crowded freeway, to avoid traffic, home before, or gone before I woke up, home after I went to bed. And, I knew I didn't want that. I didn't want to commute. What do you kind of see in this new generation of people that are kind of, I don't want that, but I'd want something different, but I'm not really sure what I could pursue. How are you kind of, seeing this next generation, as you said, speaking at colleges and whatnot?
I've thought about this question a lot, Like, it is one of the things I think about the most
Hmm.
because, like, in the late 90s, I was hand coding websites. I've just always been interested
Wow.
in weird technology. I was painting NFTs by hand on an iPad 3 years ago. So
Wow.
that was way before the huge NFT blow up and all that kind of stuff. So I love technology. And Gutenberg, back in the day, revolutionized the scribe life. And it wasn't that literacy improved, and then Gutenberg thought, wouldn't it be a good idea if we could print a whole bunch of books?
Hmm.
The technology of the book press created enough books that literacy was now easier to come by. So the availability of creative tools increases creativity.
Hmm.
And through the power of computers, and then making computers talk to other computers, the internet, the authority and power of gatekeepers who want to restrict the flow of information has been absolutely destroyed.
Hmm.
It's still there with news and media and movies and those old structures of creating narratives and messages. However, when I can talk directly to you through computers, through video chat or whatever, now we've got a direct relationship where intermediaries don't have the opportunity to warp our signal.
Hmm.
So now instead of relying on publishers and old style manufacturing, where we would have to go pitch them on the idea of hiring us as a creative person to write this book and get the advance, and then we're in debt for the book
Yeah.
we haven't even written yet because they're
Right.
fronting all the marketing costs. Well, now I just build direct relationships with the people who think I'm cool.
Hmm.
I don't need those gatekeepers anymore saying that I'm cool or not.
Yeah.
So now, instead of being beholden to those authority structures of, well, we've got this incentive, but we're going to manipulate your behavior to be a good boy, then you'll be rewarded with everything that you want. Like, screw it, I'm out. So you just opt out of that entire system
Yeah.
and then build a direct relationship with enough people that will invest in you of what you create. Now, what's the limit there? Like,
No.
who do you have to appease? Who do you have to make happy? Yourself. Be yourself louder to attract cooler people who want what you are, and then do something worth them investing in.
Yeah.
Do you paint? Do you create music? Do you solve marketing problems? What's the value that you bring to your clients? And then go be really good at that. Cool. Now you can have 5 different ways that you do that for 5 completely different types of clients, because my trade show clients need help with the trade show.
Yeah.
Some need help with sales. Those folks may not ever bring me in to do my entertaining. I could go do a 70-minute theater show tour across the country, and people have no clue that I'm a corporate consultant.
Hmm.
So there are dimensions to what I do that make no sense to anybody seeing it from the outside. They're like, I dare you to make less sense.
Right.
You work at trade shows, you're a sales trainer, you're a mind reader, you're a painter. What are you? So through the power of technology, you're more free to be whatever use you want to be and get paid for it. So to me, that's the future I want to live in, rather than like you. My dad woke up, went to a factory for 14 hours, standing on concrete, coming home exhausted, and absolutely destroyed himself to make sure that I didn't have to live that way. So I want to thank him every day that I'm alive by helping free more and more people from that process.
Yeah. And we usually release the video or the audio, not just the video. We're talking about doing the video, but if we don't, for those of you listening, Jonathan's background is exactly what he's describing, where on one side, it's all these books and like thick academic and, whatnot. And then you look a little bit to the other side and there's some like juggling pins and cards and, like all this stuff too. And it's like, what are you, a scholar, educator? Are you like what is it? And I love how he's congruent through and through. It's not that I'm hiding one because I'm ashamed of it and I make my money with the other. It's that all these have a similar thread for me, and there's a skill that's valuable to people that want to do this, that, and the other thing, and I employ that skill for the purpose that it's needed, in that moment. Sometimes college kids during finals week don't need to be sold or told anything. They just need to be relieved. They just need to take a break. That's not the time for teaching about marketing or whatever. But then sometimes somebody's on their last dollar and entertainment is the last thing on their mind. They need to know, man, what do I need to do to start bringing in people so I don't lose my livelihood? But the entertainment and the marketing have the same thread. Is you got to connect with people's emotions. You got to tell a story. You got to cast a vision. You got to provide value. It's not just about what you want. It's about what other people need. This abundant mindset where we can all create a bigger pie together instead of one person carving out, more, instead of you carving out more pie for yourself, which means less for other people. And so I love that. And I love that inspiration that is for other people as well. I mean, we're not saying by any means drop out of college, but if you're in college simply because you were told to, or you don't know any other direction, you're going to be just as lost graduating as you are now, but less in debt.
Right. Or you could have me or somebody like me teach you how to sell, and then you learn how to sell things that are really expensive.
Yeah.
And you get a lot of money by helping somebody else win more business.
Mm-hmm.
It's magic. You just talk and then you get paid.
Right.
You can learn that before you go to college and make a boatload of money. And it's easier to go to college with a boatload of money than it is to graduate with no marketable skill, because most business majors don't understand sales. They don't know marketing of drawing in a crowd. Like when I was 13 years old, I learned how to juggle fire. Like that was, I grew up around really weird people, right? So I learned how to juggle fire, and then I would go to Asheville, the closest bigger city where I grew up, and I would juggle fire on the sidewalk to draw a crowd. Then I would do a 15-minute magic show on the sidewalk. So imagine that you are busy, you're walking to go do something, and then you see this 13-year-old kid juggling fire, like, I want to see what this is about.
Right.
And then you put off your errand for 15 minutes. Like, that's holding power, right? Then at the end, I would take off my hat and then say, if you appreciated it, please fold up your applause. 20s are great. 100 would be fantastic. That's how I got party money. That skill that I learned when I was 13, I'm selling to companies at trade shows. I didn't learn that in college. There isn't a course in trade show attraction like that. There's nothing for experiential marketing. That's not a course in any college I've ever heard of. If it is, that'd be great, because I would then add professor to my resume.
Right.
So yeah, no matter what it is that you want to do, it's possible that there's a better way to do it than going into debt, going to college.
Yeah. Yeah. And not dogging education, because I think society is better having a more educated, population. But if you go into education expecting it to give you everything you need to be successful, that's where I think college sells that. Once you have this degree, then you can get the job that you want. And oftentimes that's not the case, especially now talking with a lot of college kids. It's like, I graduated with this degree, I applied for this job, and this job says, great, but you have your experience. Go get experience and then come apply again. It's like, well, make me choose experience or education. You can't ask for both. I can't do, unless you want me to have zero life, And so I love that. That's when people are like, well, if I'm going to get experience, I'm going to get paid for it. And then I don't need you anymore, because now I'm successful, on my own. And so it's, it's really instead of people seeing it, playing the victim, it's, oh, I'll never get a job because now I have this. It's like, oh, I'm going to create this, challenge into an opportunity. And now we're making the world a better place because now that, a kid graduates with this degree having no experience. You're like, all right, what decision are you going to make for them? You're going to take them under your wing and, whatnot. And that starts to build, instead of like our parents sacrificing so we don't have to do what they did, we build a legacy to where now people can stand on our shoulders. We can work together for a little bit. And then you're doing even greater things. Because as you mentioned, technology is changing more rapidly today than it was in the 90s. And I don't see it stopping. Like there's no reason for it to stop, especially with the amount of computing power that we have now and whatnot. And I think that's probably why colleges are becoming less and less important, because they're teaching things that are 5 years old, which is an eternity. And this, like marketing, you can't teach that with a B or C multiple choice test question. Like you test your marketing skills by selling for somebody. Like if you can make money with it, you did it. It's not you got an A on your test. Congratulations. So I hope this message is encouraging to people and not beating them down, because that's the last thing that we're trying to do. We're trying to create this abundance mindset where if you do have that degree and you are in debt, how can you leverage that? Because you can always leverage. It just depends on how you look at it, what perspective that you have, victim or victor. Jonathan, you have a few books that you've written. You have, I'm sure, a YouTube channel and things where people can connect with you. If people want to know more about this kind of creative lifestyle, experiential, marketing, expressing full potential, of their mindset and whatnot, where can they go to connect with you?
The easiest place to go is icanreadminds.com. That's me. And from there, that's kind of the hub, and all the other spokes branch off from there. Because I've created, I call it Dimension Z, which is another universe where anything is possible in life and business. So that is kind of like my Marvel multiverse, where my sales training and the corporate side and the performing and the art and the apparel design, all that kind of stuff lives in Dimension Z. But you can get there by going to icanreadminds.com and then start digging in there.
I love it. This is an amazing conversation. I'd love to bring you on for a second one. I think we have a lot of tangents that we can probably, move towards and be more specific. But I think this is great. I think this will inspire a lot of people and hopefully help break people out of the bowling bumpers of life and be able to realize, like, the bumpers are only there because you put them there. Like, you can put them down in the world. You can throw it into lane 14 if you want to and explore what that looks like. And that's really my goal as well, is open up minds to be more creative, to live the life that they dream of rather than just settling for other people's dream and vision for you. So thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, my pleasure. It's an honor to be able to share my thoughts. Thank you.